Anatomy of the flowering plants. So you can very easily see the structural similarity and the variation in the external morphology of the large living organism. Both plants and animals, similarly, if we were to study the internal structure, one also find similar similarity, I will add differences. This chapter introduces you to the internal structure and the functional organization of the higher plants. Study of the internal structure of the plants, which called the anatomy. Plants have cells as the basic unit. The cells are organized into the tissue, and in turn the tissues are organized into the organs. Different organs in the plant for the differences in their internal structure. Between the angiosperm, the monocots and the dicots are also seen to be anatomically different, hence internal structure also show that adaptation to the diverse environment. For the tissue system, we were discussing types of the tissue based on the types of the cells present. Let us now consider how tissue vary depending on their location in the plant body. Their structure and function would also be dependent on the location. On the basis of their structure and the location, there are three types of the tissue system. These are the epidermal tissue system, the ground or the fundamental tissue system, and the vascular or the connecting tissue system. Epidermal tissue system. The epidermal tissue system forms the outermost covering of the whole plant body and comprises epidermal cells, stomata, and the epidermal appendages. The trichomes and the hairs. The epidermis is the outermost layer of the primary plant body. It is made up of the elongated, compactly arranged cells which forms a continuous layer. Epidermis is usually single-layered. Epidermal cells are parenchymatous with a small amount of the cytoplasm lining the cell wall and a large vacuole. The outside of the epidermis is often covered with a waxy thick layer called the cuticle, which prevents the loss of the butter. Cuticle is absent in the roots of stomata. The structure present in the epidermis of the leaves. Stomata regulate the process of the transpiration and the gaseous exchange. Each stoma is composed of the two bean-shaped cells known as the guard cells, which enclose the stomatal pore. In the graphic, the guard cells are dumbbell-shaped. The outer wall of the guard cell away from the stomata pore are the thin, and the inner walls towards the stomatal pore are highly thickened. मतलब अंदर वाला थिक होता है. The guard cells possess chloroplast and regulate the opening and the closing of the stomata. Sometimes a few epidermal cells in the vicinity of the guard cells become the cephaloid in their shape and size and known as the subsidiary cell. The stomatal aperture, guard cells and the surrounding subsidiary cells are together called as the stomatal apparatus. तो ये दिया हुआ है एपिडर्मल सेल्स का स्ट्रक्चर दिया हुआ है. सब्सिडरी सेल्स है, क्लोरोप्लास्ट है, गार्ड सेल्स है और द स्टोमाटल पोर है. डायग्रामेटिक रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ द स्टोमाटा विथ बीन शेप्ड गार्ड सेल्स, स्टोमाटा विथ अ डम्बल शेप गार्ड सेल्स, और इधर बीन शेप्ड है, इधर डम्बल शेप है. The cells of the epidermis bear a number of the hairs. The root hairs are unicellular elongation of the epidermal cells and help absorb water and minerals from the soil. On the stem, the epidermal hairs are called the trichomes. The trichomes in the root system are usually multicellular. They may be branched or the unbranched and soft or the stiff. They may even be secretory. The trichomes help in preventing water loss due to the transpiration. उसके बाद फिर आता है द ग्राउंड टिश्यू सिस्टम. All tissue except the epidermis and the vascular bundles constitute the ground tissue. It consists of the simple tissue such as the parenchyma, collenchyma, and the sclerenchyma. Parenchymatous cells are usually present in the cortex, pericycle, and with pith and the medullary ridge, in the primary stems and the monocots, and the leaves. The ground tissue consists of the thin walled chloroplast containing the cells and is called the mesophyll. फिर आता है द vascular tissue system. The vascular tissue consists of the complex tissue, the phloem and the xylem. The xylem and the phloem together constitute the vascular bundles. In the dicot of stem, cambium is present between the phloem and the xylem. Such vascular bundles, because of the presence of the cambium, possess the ability to form the secondary xylem and the phloem tissue, and hence are called as the open vascular bundles. In the monocot, the vascular bundles have no cambium present in them. Hence, since they do not form secondary tissue, they are referred to as the cloud. When the xylems and the phloem within a vascular cambium are arranged in an alternate manner along with the different radii, the arrangement is known as the radial, such as in the roots. In the conjoint type of the vascular bundle, the xylem and the phloem are jointly situated along the same radius of the vascular bundle. Such vascular bundles are common in the stem and the leaves. The conjoint vascular bundles usually have the phloem located only on the outer side of the xylem. Now the यहाँ पे पिक्चर जो दिया हुआ है वो दिया हुआ है डिफरेंट वेरियस टाइप ऑफ द vascular बंडल. रेडियल दिया हुआ है, ये है पहला वाला जो है ये है रेडियल की अलग अलग रेडियस पर है. फिर उसके बाद फिर दिया हुआ है कंजॉइंट क्लोज्ड है, ये कंजॉइंट क्लोज है, और ये जो है कंजॉइंट ओपन है. इसमें है जो बीच में कैम्बियम है, इसमें कैम्बियम नहीं है. तो कंजॉइंट ओपन हो गया ये वाला सी वाला. फिर एनाटॉमी ऑफ द डाइकोटिलेडोनस एंड द मोनोकोटिलेडोनस प्लांट. फॉर ए बेटर अंडरस्टैंडिंग For a better understanding of the diffuse organization of the roots, stems, and leaves, it is convenient to study the transverse section of the mature zones of these organs. Dicotyledonous root. Look at the figure 6.3a. It for the transverse section of the sunflower root. The internal tissue organization is as follows. The outermost layer is the epiblema. Many of the cells of the epiblema protrude in the form of the unicellular root hair. The cortex consists of the several layers of the thin violet parenchyma cells with the intercellular spaces. The innermost layer of the cortex is called the endodermis, which comprises of the single layer of the barrel-shaped cells without any intercellular space. The tangential as well as the radial walls of the endodermal cells have a deposition of the water-impermeable waxy material submarine in the form of the Casparian strips. Next to the endodermis lies a few layers of the thick violet parenchyma cell referred to as the pericycle. Initiation of the lateral roots and the vascular cambium during the secondary growth take place in these cells. The pith is the small or the inconspicuous the parenchyma cell which lie between the xylem and the phloem are called the conjunctive tissue. There are usually 2 to 4 xylem and the phloem patches. Later a cambium ring develops between the xylem and the phloem. All tissue on the inner side of the endodermis such as pericycle, vascular bundles and the pith constitute the stele. ये जो है रूट हेयर, फिर एपिडर्मिस है, कॉर्टेक्स है, एंडोडर्मिस है, पेरिसाइकिल है, प्रोटोजालम है, मेटाजालम है, पिथ है और इधर फ्लोएम हो गया. ये रूट हेयर हो गया, एपिडर्मिस हो गया, कॉर्टेक्स हो गया, एंडोडर्मिस हो गया, पेरिसाइकिल हो गया, फ्लोएम हो गया, प्रोटोजालम हो गया, पिथ हो गया और मेटाजालम हो गया. फिर आता है ट्रांसवर्स सेक्शन ऑफ डाइकोट रूट, प्राइमरी और मोनोकॉट रूट दिया हुआ है. फिर आता है मोनोकॉट का रूट. So the anatomy of the monocot root is similar to the dicot root in many respects. It has the epidermis, cortex, endodermis, pericycle, vascular bundle, and the pith, as compared to the dicot root, which have fewer xylem bundles. There are usually more than 6 polyarch xylem bundles in the monocot root. Pith is large and well-developed. Monocotyledonous root do not undergo any secondary. Monocotyledonous root do not go any secondary growth. फिर आता है डाइकोटिलेडोनस रूट. तो the transverse section of the typical young dicotyledonous stem so that the epidermis is the outermost protective layer of the stem, covered with a thin layer of the cuticle. It may be a trichomes and a few stomata. The cells arranged in the multiple layers between the epidermis and the pericycle constitute the cortex. It consists of the 3 subzones. The outer hypodermis consists of a few layers of the colon cell just below the epidermis, which provide the mechanical strength to the young one. Cortical layers below hypodermis consist of the rounded, thin violet parenchyma cells with the conspicuous intercellular space. The innermost layer of the cortex is called the endodermis. The cells of the endodermis are rich in the starch grain and the layer is also referred to as the starch sheath. Pericycle is present on the inner side of the endodermis and above the phloem in the form of the semilunar patches of the parenchyma. In between the vascular bundles, there are a few layers of the radially placed parenchyma cell which constitute the medullary ridge. A large number of the vascular bundles are arranged in the ring. The ring arrangement of the vascular bundle is a characteristic of the dicot system. Each vascular bundle is conjoint, open, and with the end in dark proteolum. A large number of the rounded parenchyma cells with large intercellular space which occupy the central portion of the stem constitute the pith. तो इधर दिया हुआ ट्रांसवर्स सेक्शन ऑफ द स्टेम डाइकोट का दिया हुआ है और इधर दिया हुआ है मोनोकोट का दिया हुआ है. तो डाइकोट में देखेंगे तो एपिडर्मल हेयर है, एपिडर्मिस है, हाइपोडर्मिस है, फिर पैरेन्काइमा है, एंडोडर्मिस है. पैरेन्काइमा का ही कॉर्टिकल सेल्स है, फिर उसके बाद एंडोडर्मिस आता है, फिर पेरिसाइकिल आता है, फिर वैस्कुलर बंडल आता है, फिर मेडुलरी रे आता है और पिथ आता है. इसमें भी फिर इस तरफ से देखेंगे तो ट्रांसफर एपिडर्मिस है, फिर पैरेन्काइमा है और पैरेन्काइमा का हाइपोडर्मिस हो जाएगा. फिर एंडोडर्मिस है, पेरिसाइकिल है, फ्लोएम है, फिर कैम्बियम आ गया, फिर मेटाजाइलम आ गया, अंदर की ओर प्रोटोजाइलम हो गया. क्योंकि ये स्टेम है, डाइकोट का स्टेम है, तो डाइकोट का स्टेम जो होता है ये इनडार्क होता है, तो प्रोटोजाइलम अंदर की ओर हो गया, फिर अंदर में पिथ हो गया. फिर इसमें भी एपिडर्मिस हो गया, हाइपोडर्मिस हो गया, वैस्कुलर बंडल हो गया, ग्राउंड टिश्यू हो गया और इस तरह से अरेंज्ड है, स्कैटर्ड है कर सकते हैं. फिर इसमें होता है एपिडर्मिस है, हाइपोडर्मिस है, वैस्कुलर बंडल है, फ्लोएम है, जाइलम है और ग्राउंड टिश्यू है. फिर आता है कि a large number of the rounded parenchyma cell with large intercellular space which occupy the central portion of the stem constitute the pith. फिर आता है मोनोकोटिलेडोनस स्टेम. So the monocot stem has a sclerenchymatous hypodermis, a large number of the scattered vascular bundles, each surrounded by a sclerenchymatous bundle sheath, and a large conspicuous parenchymatous ground tissue. Vascular bundles are conjoined and clothed. Peripheral vascular bundles are generally smaller than the centrally located ones. The phloem parenchyma is absent, and the water containing cavities are present within the vascular bundles में. तो ये दिया हुआ है बंडल शीथ. जाइलम हो गया, फ्लोएम हो गया, एडैक्सियल एपिडर्मिस हो गया, फिर पेलिफेड मेसोफाइल हो गया, एयर कैविटी हो गया, स्पॉन्जी मेसोफाइल हो गया, सब स्टोमेटल कैविटी हो गया, ये एडैक्सियल एपिडर्मिस हो गया. ये हो गया एडैक्सियल एपिडर्मिस. जाइलम हो गया, एपोमेसोफाइल हो गया, सब स्टोमेटल कैविटी हो गया, ये एडैक्सियल एपिडर्मिस हो गया, स्टोमा हो गया, ये फ्लोएम हो गया. तो dorsiventral dichotomous leaf, the vertical section of the dorsiventral leaf through the lamina for the three main parts, namely epidermis, mesophile, and the vascular system. The epidermis, which covers with both the upper surface adaxial epidermis and the lower surface adaxial epidermis of the leaf, has a conspicuous cuticle. The abaxial epidermis generally bears more stomata than the adaxial epidermis. The latter may even lack stomata. The tissue between the upper and the lower epidermis is called the mesophile. Mesophile, which possess chloroplast and carry out photosynthesis, is made up of the parenchyma. It has two types of the cells: the pellified parenchyma and the spongy parenchyma. The adaxially pellified parenchyma is made of the elongated cells which are arranged uh, vertically and parallel to each other. The oval or the round and the loosely arranged spongy parenchyma is situated below the pellified parenchyma. The transverse section of the leaves are dicot and the monocot. Extends to the lower epidermis. There are numerous large spaces and air cavity between these cells. The vascular system includes the vascular bundles, which can be seen in the veins and the midriff. The size of the vascular bundles are dependent on the size of the veins. The veins vary in the thickness in the reticulate venation of the dicot leaves. The vascular bundles are surrounded by a layer of the thick walled bundles with cell. उसके बाद फिर कहता है फाइंड द पोजीशन ऑफ द जाइलम इन द वैस्कुलर बंडल. फिर आता है आइसोबायलेटरल लीफ, जिसको मोनोकोटिलिनस लीफ कहते हैं. मोनोकोट में आइसोबायलेटरल लीफ होता है. The anatomy of the isobilateral leaf is similar to that of the dorsiventral leaf. In the many ways, it shows the following characteristic difference. In an isobilateral leaf, the stomata are present on the both surface of the epidermis, and in the mesophile is not differentiated into the pellified and the spongy parenchyma. In grass, certain adaxial epidermal cells along the veins modify themselves into large empty colorless cells. These are called the bulliform cells. When the bulliform cells on the leaves have the absorbed water and are turgid, the leaf surface is exposed. When they are flaccid due to the water stress, they make the leaf curl inward to minimize the water loss. The parallel venation in the monocot leaf is reflected in the near similar size of the vascular bundle, except in the main veins as seen in the vertical section of the leaf. फिर आता है समरी. तो समरी में कहता है कि एनाटोमिकली अ प्लांट इज मेड अप ऑफ डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ द टिश्यू. द प्लांट tissues are broadly classified into meristematic, apical, lateral, and the intercalary, and the permanent, simple, and the complex. Assimilation of the food and its storage, transport of the water, minerals, and the photosynthesis and the mechanical support are the main function of the tissue. There are three types of the tissue system: epidermal, ground, and the vascular. The epidermal tissue system are made of the epidermal cells, stomata, and the epidermal appendages. The ground tissue system forms the main bulk of the plant. It is subdivided into three zones: cortex, pericycle, and the pith. The vascular tissue system formed by the xylem and the phloem. Before the presence of the cambium location of the xylem and the phloem, the vascular bundles are of different types. The vascular bundles form the connecting tissue and translocate water, minerals, and the food material. Monocotyledonous and the dicotyledonous plants show marked variation in the internal structure. They differ in the type, number, and the location of the vascular bundles. The secondary growth occurs in the most of the dicotyledonous root and the stems. तो ये हो गया इसका.